The trading station called Krell was not a nice place. It floated at the edge of lawless space, far from any government or police. The metal walls were old and dirty. The air smelled like engine oil and something worse. Criminals, smugglers, and slavers from many different planets came here to do business that they could not do anywhere else. Park Do-yeon walked through the crowded market with his head down. He was a human, 32 years old, with tired eyes and rough hands. He wore simple clothes that had been fixed many times. His ship, a small cargo hauler called the Hanwell, was docked at Bay 14. He had come to Krell only to refuel and pick up a shipping contract. Nothing more. Do-yeon had been a soldier once. He served in the Human Colonial Defense Forces for 8 years, but that was before the incident at Colony Myra, before he refused to leave civilians behind during an evacuation, before his commanding officer ordered him to retreat and he said no. He saved 47 people that day. The military discharged him anyway. Now he hauled cargo, legal cargo mostly. He kept his head down. He did not look for trouble. But trouble found him. The lower market of Station Krell was the worst part of the station. Here, beings sold things that should never be sold. Weapons, drugs, people. Do-yeon tried to walk through quickly, keeping his eyes on the floor. He told himself it was not his business. He told himself he could not save everyone. Then he heard the laughter. A crowd had gathered around a raised platform made of rusty metal. On the platform stood a reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes. This was a sketh, a species known for dealing in slaves. The sketh wore expensive clothes and many gold rings on his clawed fingers. He was smiling, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Come, come," the sketh called out to the crowd. "We have many fine products today. Workers, fighters, companions, step forward and see." Do-yeon should have kept walking, he knew this, but something made him stop, something made him look. On the platform behind the sketh stood several beings in chains. Most of them were large and strong, the kind that would sell quickly as laborers or bodyguards. But at the end of the line, there was one who was different. She was female, slender and small. Her skin was pale blue like the sky on Earth at dawn. Her hair was silver and fell past her shoulders in tangled knots. She wore rags that barely covered her thin body. Metal cuffs circled her wrists and ankles, connected by heavy chains. But the worst thing was a collar around her neck, blinking with small red lights. Do-yeon knew what she was. A Velrani. He had heard of her species. They were empaths, able to feel the emotions of others and project feelings of calm or peace. Their homeworld had been conquered by the Dominion of Keth 30 years ago. Now the Velrani were scattered across the galaxy, sold as slaves, bred in captivity, used and thrown away. The sketh walked over to the Velrani woman and grabbed her chin, forcing her face up toward the crowd. "And now a special item," the sketh announced. "A genuine Velrani female, young and healthy." The crowd murmured with interest. Velrani slaves were expensive. Their empathic abilities made them valuable for many purposes, none of them good. But then the sketh laughed, and it was not a nice laugh. "However," the sketh continued, "this one is defective. Her empathic glands are burnt out, completely useless. She cannot read emotions. She cannot project calm. She is nothing but a pretty face and a warm body." The crowd laughed too. The interest faded from their eyes. "So," the sketh said, pushing the woman forward. She stumbled and almost fell. "One credit, just one credit for this defective stock. Anyone, one credit to take this trash off my hands." More laughter. The Velrani woman stood there with her head down. Her eyes were empty. She did not react to the insults or the laughter. She had heard it all before. She had given up. Do-yeon watched her. He saw the way she held herself, the way her shoulders curved inward as if she was trying to disappear. He saw the scars on her arms, thin white lines against the blue skin. He saw the bruises on her face, yellow and fatting. He saw a person who had been broken so many times that she had forgotten what it felt like to be whole. He should have kept walking. 1 credit, the Sketh called again, his voice mocking. Surely someone wants this worthless creature. 1 credit, no. Silence, the crowd waited for the next item. Do-yun felt something twist in his chest. He thought of his sister, Ji-young. She had been 19 when she died at Colony Myra. She had trusted him to save her. He had failed. He could not save Ji-young. He could not go back and change the past. But he was here now in this moment, and there was someone in front of him who needed help. Before he knew what he was doing, Do-yun stepped forward. 1 credit, he said. His voice was not loud, but in the sudden silence everyone heard him. The crowd turned to look at the human. The Sketh's yellow eyes widened, then narrowed with amusement. The human bids 1 credit, the Sketh announced, his voice dripping with mockery. A human wants the broken Velrani, how touching. The crowd erupted in laughter. Beings pointed at Do-yun and made jokes in languages he did not understand. He ignored them all. He walked to the platform and held out his credit chip. The Sketh took it, still grinning. Sold to the foolish human. He unlocked the chains connecting the Velrani woman to the platform and shoved her forward. She fell off the platform and landed at Do-yun's feet. She is your problem now, human, the Sketh said. No refunds. More laughter followed them as Do-yun knelt down beside the woman. She was trembling. She did not look at him. Can you stand? He asked quietly. She did not answer. Maybe she did not understand. Maybe she was too afraid. Do-yun took off his jacket. It was old and worn, but it was clean. He draped it over her shoulders, covering her rags. Then he offered her his hand. She looked at his hand. Then she looked at his face. Her eyes, the color of deep water, searched his expression for something. Anger, lust, cruelty. The things she had always found in the faces of those who owned her. She found none of those things. Slowly she took his hand. Her fingers were cold and thin. He helped her stand. What? She whispered in broken common, the trade language of the galaxy. What do you want from me? Do-yun looked at her. He saw fear in her eyes. He saw confusion. He saw a tiny spark of something that might have been hope, buried so deep she probably did not know it was there. Nothing, he said. I want nothing from you. Let us get you somewhere safe. She did not believe him. He could see that. But she followed him anyway because she had no other choice. They walked through the market together. The crowd parted around them, still laughing and pointing. Do-yun did not care. He led the woman toward the docking bays, toward his ship, toward whatever came next. Behind them, in the shadows of the market, someone was watching. A tall figure in dark armor with cold eyes that missed nothing. He noted the human. He noted the Velrani. He noted the way the human had spoken without fear. The figure turned and walked away to make a report. His master would want to know about this. The Hanel was not a beautiful ship. The paint was scratched and faded. Rust spots decorated the hull like old wounds. The engines made strange noises that Do-yun had learned to ignore. But the ship was his, fully paid for, and it had never failed him. Do-yun led the Velrani woman up the boarding ramp. She walked slowly, her bare feet making soft sounds on the metal floor. Her eyes moved constantly, looking at everything, waiting for danger. The inside of the ship was small but clean. There was a cockpit at the front, a tiny kitchen area, a bathroom, and 2 small cabins. Do-yun had lived alone on this ship for 5 years. He had never brought anyone else aboard. This way, he said, walking toward one of the cabins. The woman followed, silent as a ghost. The cabin was simple, a bed with clean sheets, a small table, a storage cabinet, a window that showed the black of space. You can stay here, Do-yun said. The door locks from the inside. Only you can open it from inside. She looked at him with those deep water eyes. She did not understand. No one had ever given her a room with a lock that she controlled. Do-yun walked to the storage cabinet and pulled out some clothes. A simple shirt, soft pants, socks. They would be too big for her, but they were clean. "These are for you," he said, placing them on the bed. "The bathroom is across the hall. Take as long as you need. I will prepare some food." He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. "Why?" It was the same question she had asked before. He understood. In her world, in the world of slaves and masters, nothing was given freely. Everything had a price. Everything had a purpose. Do-hyun thought for a moment. Then he said, "Because you needed help, that is all." He left the cabin and closed the door behind him. A moment later, he heard the lock click into place. In the tiny kitchen, Do-hyun prepared a simple meal. Rice, vegetables, protein strips, nothing fancy but warm and filling. He made enough for 2 people, though he was not sure if she would come out. While the food cooked, he thought about what he had done. He had spent his only credit. His fuel was low. His next contract was uncertain. He had made himself a target of mockery. And for what? A broken woman he did not know. But when he closed his eyes, he saw his sister's face. Ji-young, smiling at him, trusting him, believing that her big brother would keep her safe. He had failed her. He would carry that failure for the rest of his life. He could not save everyone, but he could save someone. The lock clicked again. Do-hyun looked up and saw the woman standing in the doorway of the kitchen. She had changed into the clothes he gave her. She had washed her face. Her silver hair was still wet. She looked younger now and even more fragile. "Sit," Do-hyun said, nodding toward the small table. "Eat." She sat. He placed a bowl in front of her. She looked at the food as if she had never seen anything like it. Then she looked at him. "Eat," he repeated. "You are safe." Slowly she picked up the utensils. Her hands were shaking. She took a small bite, then another. Then she could not stop. She ate like someone who had not had a real meal in a very long time. Do-hyun ate his own food and did not comment. He gave her privacy, looking out the window instead of watching her. When she was finished, she put down the utensils and spoke. "My name is Yuna." Do-hyun looked at her. "Yuna." "It is not my birth name," she said. Her voice was quiet like a stream over stones. "I heard human travelers say this word. It sounded beautiful. I took it for myself." "It is a good name," Do-hyun said. "I am Do-hyun." Yuna nodded. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she began to speak. She told him her story. She had been born in a breeding facility, a place where Velrani were raised like animals to be sold. She never knew her parents. She never knew freedom. When she was 12 years old, her empathic abilities first appeared. The slavers were excited. A strong empath was worth a fortune. But Yuna's abilities were too strong. They could not control her, so they put a collar on her neck and activated it. The pain was beyond anything she could describe. It burned out her empathic glands like fire burning paper. After that, she could barely sense anything at all. She became worthless. She was sold and resold, each owner crueler than the last. She had been a servant, a laborer, a thing to be used and thrown away. She stopped hopping. She stopped feeling. She became empty. "I thought I would die at that auction," Yuna said. Her voice was flat, without emotion. "When no one bid, I thought the sketh would kill me to save the cost of feeding me. I was ready. I was not afraid." She looked at Do-hyun with those deep eyes. "Then you spoke. You offered 1 credit. Why would anyone spend even 1 credit on something worthless?" Do-hyun met her gaze. "You are not worthless." She shook her head. "You do not know me. You do not know what I am." "I know what you are," Do-hyun said. "You are a person, that is enough." Yuna stared at him. She did not know what to say. Before she could respond, an alarm beeped in the cockpit. Do-hyun stood up quickly. "Stay here," he said. He moved to the cockpit and looked at the security monitors. His heart sank. 3 figures stood at the bottom of the boarding ramp. They wore dark armor and carried weapons. In front of them stood a tall being with gray skin and cold eyes. Do-hyun recognized the species. Kethrani, the rulers of the Dominion of Keth, the empire that had conquered Yuna's homeworld. He took a deep breath and walked down the ramp. The tall Keithrani watched him approach. His name was Terk, and he was a lieutenant in service to Warlord Gorin. He had been at the auction, watching from the shadows. "Human," Terk said. His voice was like metal scraping metal. "You purchased property today." "I did not purchase property," Doyan said. "I purchased a person." Terk's thin lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "You play with words. It does not matter. Warlord Gorin has an interest in the Velrani you took. He collects rare specimens. He wishes to add her to his collection." "She is not for sale." Terk's eyes narrowed. "Everything is for sale, human. The warlord offers 5,000 credits. That is far more than you paid." 5,000 credits. It was more money than Doyan had seen in years. It would buy fuel, repairs, food for months. It would make his life easier in every way. "No," Doyan said. Terk's guards shifted, their hands moving toward their weapons. The air became heavy with tension. "You refuse Warlord Gorin?" Terk asked. His voice was dangerously quiet. "I refuse to sell a person," Doyan said. "She is not mine to sell. She is not anyone's to sell." Terk took a step forward. He was taller than Doyan, stronger, faster. His kind had evolved as hunters on a harsh world. They were born to kill. "You are a fool," Terk said. "A small, weak human who does not know his place. I could take her from you right now. I could kill you and take her." Doyan did not step back. He did not look away. Something changed in his eyes. The tired cargo hauler disappeared. The soldier who had refused to abandon civilians appeared in his place. "You could try," Doyan said. His voice was calm. "But I promise you it will cost more than 5,000 credits worth of your men." Terk looked into the human's eyes. He saw something there that surprised him. Not fear, not desperation, something else. Something that made the hunter in him pause. The moment stretched. The guards waited for orders. Finally, Terk stepped back. "The warlord will remember this," he said. "He does not forget insults. He does not forgive." "Then he knows where to find me," Doyan said. Terk turned and walked away. His guards followed. Doyan watched them until they disappeared into the station. Then he went back inside the ship. His hands were shaking now that the danger had passed. He had made a powerful enemy today. The Dominion of Keth controlled hundreds of worlds. They had armies, fleets, weapons beyond counting. And now they were interested in him. Yuna stood in the hallway, her face pale with fear. She had heard everything. "They will come for me," she whispered. "They will not stop. You should have taken the credits. You should have given me to them." Doyan walked past her to the cockpit. He began the launch sequence. The engines hummed to life. "I did not buy you to sell you," he said. "I bought you so no one else could." "Why?" Yuna asked again. It was the only question that mattered. Doyan looked at the stars through the cockpit window. He thought of his sister. He thought of all the people he could not save. He thought of the long, dark road that had brought him here. "Because someone should have done it a long time ago," he said. "For you, for all of them. Someone should have stood up and said no." The handle lifted off and broke through the station's atmosphere shield into open space. Behind them, Station Krell grew smaller and smaller until it was just another dot of light among the stars. Ahead of them was darkness and danger. Somewhere out there, Warlord Gorin was making plans. But for now, they were free. Yuna watched Doyan as he piloted the ship. Her damaged empathic senses could barely feel anything anymore. But she felt something now, a tiny warmth, a small light in the darkness. She did not know what to call it. Later she would learn the word. Hope. Warlord Gorin sat on his throne of black stone and listened to Terk's report. His palace floated in orbit above a conquered world, a massive ship filled with treasures stolen from 100 species. He was old for a Keithrani, over 200 years, but his eyes were sharp and his mind was sharper. "A human," Gorin said slowly. A simple cargo hauler refused my offer. Yes, my lord, Terk said. He knelt before the throne, his head bowed. He was not afraid. I found that strange. Goran leaned forward. His gray skin was covered with scars from battles long ago. Gold rings decorated his fingers. A crown of black metal sat upon his head. He embarrassed you, Goran said. He embarrassed me. This cannot stand. What are your orders, my lord? Goran smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Send the hunters, 3 ships, find the human and the Velrani, bring them both to me alive. I wish to speak with this brave human myself. Terk rose and left to carry out his orders. Far across space, aboard the Hanul, Doyun studied the navigation charts. They had been traveling for 2 days, jumping between systems, trying to lose anyone who might follow. But he knew it was not enough. They will find us, Yuna said. She sat in the co-pilot seat, her legs pulled up against her chest. The Dominion has spies everywhere. They will track the ship's signature. Doyun nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. We need to go somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere the Dominion cannot reach easily. There is no such place. Yes, there is. Doyun entered new coordinates into the navigation computer. New Busan. Yuna looked at him with confusion. What is New Busan? A human colony world, Doyun said. Small, frontier, far from major trade routes. The Dominion has no presence there. Why would they protect us? Because I have a friend there, Doyun paused. At least I hope she is still my friend. The journey to New Busan took 4 more days. During that time, Yuna began to heal. Not her body that was recovering already, but something deeper. She began to talk more. She began to eat regular meals. She began to sleep without screaming. Doyun told her about his past. He told her about his service in the military. He told her about Colony Myra and the evacuation that went wrong. He told her about his sister, Ji-young. She was 19, he said. They were sitting in the small kitchen drinking hot tea. So young, so full of life. She trusted me to keep her safe. What happened? Yuna asked. Doyun stared at his tea. The memories were painful, but he continued. The enemy was coming. We had to evacuate the colony. There were not enough ships. My commanding officer ordered us to leave the remaining civilians behind. He said they were acceptable losses. Doyun's jaw tightened. I refused. I stayed to help load more people onto the last transport. And your sister? She was in the crowd waiting to board. There was an explosion. The enemy had reached us faster than we expected. In the chaos, I lost her. By the time I found her, he stopped. He could not continue. Yuna reached out and touched his hand. It was the first time she had touched anyone voluntarily in years. You tried to save her, she said softly. That matters. Doyun looked at her. I failed. You tried, Yuna repeated. No one tried to save me ever until you. They sat in silence for a long moment. You are not trying to replace her, Yuna said suddenly. Your sister. I know you are not trying to make me into her. Doyun shook his head. No, you are not her. But when I saw you at that auction, I thought about who I wanted to be. What kind of man would walk away? What kind of man would let it happen? I did not want to be that man. So you became the man who stood up. I became the man who should have existed when Ji-young needed him. The Hanul dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a small planet covered in green forests and blue oceans. New Busan. The colony was young, only 40 years old, built by humans who wanted a fresh start far from Earth and its politics. Doyun sent a communication signal to the planet. A few minutes later, a face appeared on the screen. A woman with short black hair and serious eyes. She wore the uniform of a colonial security officer. Doyun, the woman said. Her voice was flat. I should have known you would show up eventually. Hello, Ji-won, Doyun said. It has been a long time. Kang Ji-won had served with Doyun in the military. She had been there at Colony Myra. She was one of the few people who understood what happened that day, and one of the few who did not blame him for it. "What do you want?" Ji-won asked, "and who is that with you?" She was looking at Yuna, who sat behind Do-yeon. "I need help," Do-yeon said. "I need a safe place, and I need to tell you something you are not going to like." An hour later, the Hanel landed at the colony's small spaceport. Ji-won met them on the landing pad. She looked older than Do-yeon remembered, tired in a way that came from years of hard work and responsibility. They went to her office in the security building. Do-yeon told her everything: the auction, Yuna, the Dominion, Warlord Goran. When he finished, Ji-won was silent for a long time. Then she spoke. "You brought a Dominion warlord's anger to my colony." "Yes." "To protect one person." "Yes." Ji-won looked at Yuna. The Velrani woman sat quietly, waiting to be thrown out, waiting to be betrayed. It was what she expected. "Why her?" Ji-won asked Do-yeon. "Why not her?" Do-yeon replied. Ji-won rubbed her forehead. "Damn it, Do-yeon, you never change." "Is that a bad thing?" "Sometimes yes, sometimes no," Ji-won sighed. "How long until they find us?" As if in answer, an alarm began to sound. Ji-won's communication device beeped urgently. She answered it, listened for a moment, and her face went pale. "3 ships just entered orbit," she said. "Dominion military vessels. They are broadcasting a message." They went to the communications center. On the large screen, Terk's face appeared. His cold eyes seemed to look directly at them. "People of New Busan," Terk said. His voice was calm, almost bored. "You are harboring a criminal and stolen property belonging to Warlord Goran of the Dominion of Keth. Surrender the human called Park Do-yeon and the Velrani female within 12 hours. If you do not comply, we will destroy your colony." The message ended. The screen went dark. Silence filled the room. Then slowly the people of New Busan began to react. Fear spread through the colony like fire. Word passed from person to person. The Dominion was here. The Dominion wanted to burn them. Within hours, the colonists gathered in the town hall. The building was old, made of wood and stone, built by the first settlers decades ago. It was meant to hold 100 people, but twice that many crowded inside now. Ji-won stood at the front. Do-yeon and Yuna stood with her. The colonists looked at them with a mix of fear and anger. "You brought this on us," a man shouted. He was a farmer, his face red with rage. "Give them to the Dominion, save our children." Others shouted in agreement. The fear was becoming anger, and the anger was looking for a target. Yuna stepped back. She had expected this. "I will go," she said quietly to Do-yeon. "I do not want people to die for me." "No," Do-yeon said. "You cannot protect me forever. You cannot ask these people to die for a stranger." "I am not asking them to die for you," Do-yeon said. "I am asking them to stand for what is right." He stepped forward and faced the crowd. "Listen to me," he said. His voice was not loud, but something in it made people stop and pay attention. "I know you are afraid. I am afraid too, but I want to ask you something. Why did you come here? Why did you leave Earth, leave everything you knew, to build a life on this small world so far from home?" The crowd was quiet now. "You came here because you wanted to be free," Do-yeon continued. "You wanted to build something better. You wanted to live without masters, without fear, without bending your knee to anyone." He pointed toward the sky. "Up there are people who want to take that from you, not because you did anything wrong, but because you have something they want. And if you give it to them today, they will come back tomorrow wanting more. That is how empires work. They take and take until there is nothing left." Yuna watched him speak. She had never seen anyone like him. He was not a great speaker. His words were simple, but there was something in him that made people listen. An old woman stood up in the back of the hall. Her name was Grandmother Park, the oldest person in the colony. She had helped build the first houses with her own hands. "I remember Earth," she said. Her voice was thin but strong. "I remember being told to be quiet. I remember being told to accept things as they were. I came here because I refused. I came to this rock because I would not kneel." She looked around at the other colonists. "I am too old to run, too old to hide, but I am not too old to stand." Silence, then a farmer stood up, then a miner, then a teacher holding her young daughter's hand. One by one, the people of New Busan made their choice. Ji-won looked at them. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "Then we fight," she said. "We stand together and we fight." Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere in orbit, Terk watched the colony through his ship's sensors. He expected surrender. He expected fear. He did not expect what came next. The 12 hours passed quickly. The colonists of New Busan worked through the night preparing for what was coming. They did not have warships or military weapons. They were farmers, miners, teachers, and traders, but they had something else. They had the stubborn will to survive. Ji-won organized the defense with the skill of a veteran soldier. Mining charges became bombs. Farming vehicles became barricades. Underground storage tunnels became shelters for children and those who could not fight. Every person who could hold a weapon was given one, and every person who could not was given a job to help. Do-yeon worked alongside them. He helped build barriers from metal sheets and stone. He taught colonists how to aim, how to breathe, how to fight without panicking. He did not sleep. There would be time for sleep later if they survived. Yuna wanted to help, but she did not know how. She had no combat training. Her empathic abilities were broken. She felt useless. "What can I do?" she asked Do-yeon. "I am nothing. I have nothing to offer." Do-yeon stopped what he was doing and looked at her. "You survived," he said. "That is not nothing, that is everything. You survived things that would break most people. You are still here, still standing. That takes strength." "Strength," Yuna shook her head. "I'm not strong, I just did not die." "Sometimes that is the same thing." He handed her a medical kit. "You cannot fight," he said, "but you can help. When the battle starts, people will be hurt. Find them, help them, keep them alive." Yuna took the kit. Her hands were trembling, but she nodded. "I will try." That is all any of us can do. Dawn came slowly over New Busan. The colony sat in a valley surrounded by green hills. The buildings were simple but strong, made to last. In the center of town stood the old bell tower, the first structure ever built here, now used as a watchtower. The Dominion forces landed at sunrise. 3 shuttles descended from orbit, carrying over 100 soldiers in dark armor. Terk led them personally. He wanted to see the human who had defied Warlord Gorin. He wanted to watch him break. The shuttles landed a kilometer outside the colony. Terk's soldiers formed into lines, checking their weapons, preparing to march. They expected little resistance. This was a small colony of farmers. They would crush it in hours. Terk walked at the front of his army. His blade hung at his side, a weapon passed down through generations of Kithrani warriors. He had killed hundreds with this blade. He would add more names to its count today. As they approached the colony, Terk saw something that made him pause. Barricades blocked every street. Behind them stood humans with weapons pointed outward. Not soldiers, farmers, workers, old women and young men. People who should have been hiding in their homes, begging for mercy. Instead, they were waiting. Terk's second-in-command spoke quietly. "They mean to fight, sir." "I can see that," Terk said. His eyes searched the barricades until he found what he was looking for. There at the main barrier stood Park Do-yeon, the cargo hauler, the fool who had started all of this. Terk activated his communication device. His voice boomed across the valley. "Humans, this is your final chance. Surrender the criminal and the Velrani. We will spare your lives." A moment of silence. Then Do-yeon's voice came back, carried by speakers mounted on the barricades. "We are not surrendering anyone. Go back to your ships. Leave our world. You will find nothing here but death. Terk felt something he had not felt in a long time. Surprise. These humans truly meant to fight. For what? For a broken slave and a worthless cargo pilot. He did not understand, but it did not matter. His orders were clear. Attack, Terk said. The Dominion soldiers charged. The first wave hit the eastern barricade. Mining charges exploded, throwing soldiers into the air. Humans fired from behind cover, their shots wild but many. Dominion soldiers fell, screaming, their armor pierced by civilian weapons never designed for war. But the Dominion kept coming. They were trained warriors. They did not break. They pushed forward through the fire and smoke, stepping over their fallen comrades. The eastern barricade fell. The defenders there died fighting, buying time for others to retreat deeper into the colony. G1 commanded the defense from the bell tower, watching the battle through field glasses. She saw her people dying. She saw soldiers pouring into the streets, but she also saw something else. The Dominion was taking losses, heavy losses. Every building became a fortress. Every alley became a killing ground. The colonists knew their homes. They knew every corner, every hiding spot, every path of escape, and they fought with a fury that surprised even themselves. Do-Yun led a counterattack against the enemy's forward command post. He and 30 colonists moved through back alleys and underground tunnels, emerging behind enemy lines. They struck hard and fast, destroying communication equipment, killing officers, creating chaos. A Dominion soldier swung a blade at Do-Yun's head. He ducked, drove his own blade into the soldier's throat, and kept moving. He felt nothing, no fear, no hesitation. He had made his peace. He would win or he would die. Either way, he would not stop. The command post burned. Smoke rose into the sky. The Dominion's organization began to crumble. On the other side of town, Yuna moved through the battle like a ghost. She did not fight. She did not need to. She followed the sounds of pain and found the wounded, a farmer with a hole in his stomach, a young woman with burns on her arms, a grandfather who had taken a blade to the leg. She could not feel their emotions the way she once could, but she could see their pain. She bandaged wounds. She applied pressure to bleeding injuries. She held hands and spoke softly, telling them to hold on, help was coming. Her damaged empathic senses flickered. She could feel fear all around her and pain and something else too, something bright and fierce. The colonists were afraid, yes, but they were also determined. They were fighting for their homes, their families, their freedom. That determination burned like fire. For the first time in her life, Yuna felt that fire inside herself. She found a medic named Murray trying to save a wounded man. The medic was overwhelmed. Too many injured, not enough supplies. "Tell me what to do," Yuna said. Murray looked at her. There was no time for questions. "Hold this, press hard, do not let go." Yuna pressed. The man screamed. She did not let go. Hours passed. The battle raged through the streets of New Busan. Buildings burned. People died, but the colony did not fall. Terk pushed forward, leading his remaining soldiers toward the center of town. He had lost half his force. Half, to farmers and miners with primitive weapons. It was impossible. It was humiliating. But he would not retreat. He could not face Warlord Goran with failure. He found Do-Yun waiting for him in the main square. The human stood alone. His clothes were torn and bloody. A blade hung at his side. Behind him, the old bell tower rose against the sky. "Enough," Terk shouted. He strode forward, his own blade drawn. "Your people are dying, your colony is burning. Surrender now and I will let the survivors live." Do-Yun shook his head. "Your people are dying too. How many more will you spend? How much blood is one broken slave worth?" Terk's eyes narrowed. "You still call her that, a broken slave? Then why fight? Why die for something worthless?" Do-Yun raised his blade. "Because she is not worthless. She was never a slave. She was always a person. You just never learned to see it. Terk attacked. The Keithrani was faster than Do-yun, stronger, better trained. His blade moved like lightning, striking again and again. Do-yun blocked, dodged, retreated. Blood appeared on his arms, his face, his chest. Every exchange left him weaker. But he did not fall. "Why do you keep fighting?" Terk demanded. He was breathing hard now too. "The human should have been dead long ago. You cannot win." Do-yun smiled. It was a tired smile, full of pain and something else. Peace. "I am not fighting to win," he said. "I am fighting because it is right." He attacked. Terk blocked the first strike, the second, the third, but the fourth got through. Do-yun's blade slid between the plates of Terk's armor and found flesh. The Keithrani stumbled. Blood poured from his side. He looked down at the wound, then up at the human who had given it to him. "How?" Terk whispered. Do-yun stepped forward. His blade pressed against Terk's throat. "Leave," Do-yun said. "Take your soldiers and go. Tell your warlord that New Busan is not worth the cost. Tell him that humans are mad. We fight like cornered beasts because we are cornered beasts. We have nothing left to lose." Terk looked into the human's eyes. He saw no fear there, no weakness. Only an iron will that would not break, would not bend, would not stop. For the first time in his long life, Terk felt something he had never felt before. Doubt. "Fall back," he said into his communication device. His voice was hoarse with pain and something else. "All units fall back. Return to the ships." His remaining soldiers obeyed. They retreated through the ruined streets, past burning buildings and fallen comrades, back to their shuttles. They lifted off and returned to orbit. On the ground, the colonists watched them go. They were too tired to cheer, too hurt to celebrate, but they were alive. They had won. Do-yun fell to his knees as the last shuttle disappeared into the sky. His wounds were catching up to him. His vision was fading. He felt hands on his shoulders, familiar hands. Yuna's face appeared above him. "You did it," she said. Her eyes were full of tears. "You saved them. You saved everyone." Do-yun smiled weakly. "We saved them, all of us together." Then his eyes closed, and he knew nothing more. 1 month passed. New Busan was healing. The buildings that had burned were being rebuilt, stronger than before. The barricades had been taken down and the streets were clear again. Children played where soldiers had fought. Flowers grew where blood had soaked the ground. The colony had lost 43 people in the battle. Their names were carved on a stone monument in the center of town, next to the old bell tower. Every morning, colonists came to leave flowers and say prayers. They would not forget. But they had also gained something. Word of the battle spread across the galaxy. A small human colony had stood against the dominion of Keth and won. Other species heard the story and wondered. Refugees who had been hiding in fear began to look toward New Busan with hope. Do-yun spent 2 weeks in the medical center. His wounds were serious but not fatal. The colony's doctor, O'Murray, saved his life. She had been working without rest during and after the battle, treating hundreds of injured people. She was too tired to accept thanks, so Do-yun simply squeezed her hand and said nothing. When he was finally able to walk again, he left the medical center and stepped into the sunlight. The air smelled clean, like fresh earth and growing things. The sky was blue and endless. Yuna was waiting for him outside. She looked different now, healthier, stronger. She wore simple colony clothes and her silver hair was braided neatly, but the biggest change was in her eyes. They were no longer empty. Something lived in them now. "You look terrible," she said. Do-yun laughed. It hurt his healing ribs, but he laughed anyway. "Thank you, I feel terrible." They walked through town together. Colonists waved at them, called out greetings, offered food and drinks. Do-yun was uncomfortable with the attention, but Yuna seemed to enjoy watching him squirm. "They think you are a hero," she said. "I am not a hero. I just did what anyone should do." That is what makes you a hero. Most people do not do what they should. You do. They reached a hill at the edge of town, overlooking the valley. From here they could see the whole colony, the houses, the farms, the forests beyond. It was not a large place, not a wealthy place, but it was home. They sat in the grass and watched the sun move across the sky. "What will you do now?" Yuna asked. Do-yeon thought for a moment. "I could leave. My ship is repaired. The galaxy is large. There are contracts to take, cargo to haul. But I was thinking I might stay for a while, help with the rebuilding. The colony lost many workers. They could use another pair of hands." Yuna nodded slowly. "The colony could use a hero." "I am not a hero." "You keep saying that." Far away in his palace ship, Warlord Gorin received Terk's report. The warlord was silent for a long time after hearing it. 57 soldiers dead, 3 shuttles destroyed, a complete failure against a colony of farmers. His advisors were worried. They expected rage. They expected executions. Instead, Gorin simply asked, "Tell me about the human." Terk told him everything. The cargo hauler who bought a worthless slave, the man who refused 5,000 credits, the fighter who would not break, would not bend, would not stop. "Interesting," Gorin said. "Very interesting." He considered sending a larger force, a fleet, enough firepower to burn New Busan to ash. It would be satisfying. But his advisors warned him. The humans were watching. Other human colonies had heard about New Busan. Earth itself had taken notice. An attack now might trigger a war. "The Dominion is strong," one advisor said carefully. "But the humans are many and they are unpredictable. We do not know what they would do if provoked." Gorin thought of Terk's description. Humans are mad. They fight like cornered beasts. Perhaps a full war was unwise, for now. "We will wait," Gorin decided. "We will watch and we will remember." He did not forget the name, Park Do-yeon. Back on New Busan, life continued. Do-yeon found work helping a farmer repair his fields. The labor was hard but honest. He liked the feeling of dirt under his hands, the simplicity of planting seeds and watching them grow. Yuna found her own place in the colony. She started helping at the school, teaching children about the galaxy beyond their world. She told them about different species, different cultures, different ways of living. She told them about her people, the Velrani, and their history before the Dominion came. The children loved her stories. They called her teacher Yuna and they brought her drawings and flowers. She kept every single one. Something strange was happening to Yuna's empathic abilities. Murray ran tests and discovered that her damaged glands were slowly healing. It should have been impossible. The slavers had burned them out completely, deliberately and permanently. "But they are regenerating," Murray said, showing Yuna the scan results. "Slowly, yes, but definitely. In a few years, you might be able to use your abilities again." "How?" Yuna asked. "The damage was permanent." Murray shrugged. "I have a theory. Velrani empathic abilities are connected to emotional health. Trauma can suppress them. Safety, kindness, hope, these things might promote healing." Yuna thought about the last month, the terror of the battle, the relief of survival, the kindness of the colonists who had welcomed her, the warmth of belonging somewhere for the first time. "Hope," she repeated quietly. "That is my theory," Murray said. "But what do I know? I am just a country doctor." She smiled and left Yuna alone with her thoughts. One evening, Do-yeon sat on the hill again, watching the sunset. Yuna found him there and sat beside him. They had done this many times now. It had become their routine. "You could still leave," she said. "Take your ship and go. You do not owe this place anything." Do-yeon watched the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. "I was thinking about that," he said. "I spent 5 years running from one place to another, taking jobs, earning money, moving on. I never stayed anywhere. I never let myself care about anywhere." And now I think I was wrong. I thought if I did not care, I could not be hurt, but all I did was hurt myself in a different way. I was alone. I was empty. He looked at her. In the fading light, her blue skin seemed to glow. This place is not perfect. These people are not my family, but they feel like home. For the first time in a long time, something feels like home. Yuna was quiet for a moment, then she spoke. My people have a word for beings like you, like the humans of this colony. We call you Velthari. What does it mean? It means those who carry fire. It is what we call people who bring warmth and light wherever they go, people who burn away darkness. Doyun shook his head. I am not special, I am just stubborn. Yuna smiled. Yes, you are stubborn. Stubborn enough to buy a broken slave for 1 credit. Stubborn enough to refuse a warlord's gold. Stubborn enough to stand when everyone else would kneel. She reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were warmer now than they had been on the handle. That stubbornness, she said, is why I am alive. It is why this colony is alive. It is why there is hope. Below them, the colony lights came on one by one. Families gathered for dinner. Children laughed. People lived their lives, ordinary and precious. I received a message today, Yuna said quietly, from off-world. Doyun looked at her. What kind of message? From other Velrani, survivors. They heard about New Busan. They heard about a human who protected one of our kind. They are asking if they can come here, if they would be welcome. Doyun thought about this. More refugees meant more mouths to feed, more houses to build, more strain on the colony's limited resources. It would be hard. But he remembered the auction. He remembered Yuna's empty eyes. He remembered all the others who were still out there, alone and afraid, waiting for someone to help them. What did you tell them? He asked. Yuna smiled, and her eyes were bright with something he had never seen there before. I told them yes. I told them to come. I told them that there are humans here who carry fire, and that fire is big enough to share. Doyun squeezed her hand. Then we had better start building more houses. They sat together on the hill as the stars came out, one by one, filling the sky with light. Somewhere out there, ships were changing course. Refugees were gathering their belongings. Hope was spreading from world to world like ripples on water. The fire that Doyun had started with a single credit was growing. It would reach places he could not imagine, touch lives he would never meet. It would change the galaxy in small ways and large. But that was for the future. For now, he was content to sit on a hill with a friend, watching the stars, feeling the warmth of hope in his chest. For now, that was enough. The story continues somewhere. On distant worlds, Velrani survivors heard the name of a small human colony and dared to dream. In the halls of power, warlords looked at maps and wondered why humans were so strange, so fierce, so impossible to break. In quiet moments, ordinary people asked themselves what they would do if they saw someone who needed help. Some of them, remembering New Busan, remembered Park Do-yeon, remembered a single credit that changed everything, decided that they would stand up too. The fire was spreading, and it would never go out.